call us to order at 6 o'clock. We have a quorum. And Doug, you want to say our prayer?
Yes, sir. Dear Heavenly Father, we just come to you today and just ask that you be with us as we try to make the best decisions possible for the district, Lord. Be with our staff and our students as they're still on summer break, Lord. Just continue to let them get rest and enjoy their break, and let them be ready to come back, Lord. All these things we ask in Jesus' holy name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas
flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Right. Richard laughing at me.
I thought Stacy would just want to start getting louder at the end.
No.
Not kind of.
Thanks, Doug. All right, open forum. There's no one here. So, recognition of guests. Mr. Garrett.
Tonight I asked Mr. Brent Drury to come just so we can introduce you. He's the new high school principal, so we're excited to have him. He's had 33 years in education, so we're excited to have his knowledge, and he's got moved in and all that, trying to get settled in. So
Good deal. It's great to have you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate the warm welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I'm excited about this new year.
Glutton for punishment, huh?
Always. No,
Please
I'm
do.
looking forward to it. I think it's going to be good.
Good deal. You can stay and listen, or you can go if you'd like, whatever you want to do.
I may go to the supper waiting on me.
yeah, go for it. All
I
right.
know you told me. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Good to meet y'all. Thank
Yeah,
you.
nice to meet you. Okay, new business, consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? Okay, I need a motion
I
to
move-
approve it.
Go ahead.
No, just to approve it. Go ahead.
I move to approve consent agenda items 1 through 4.
Have a motion by Doug. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Stacy. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right, regular agenda. To discuss possible, possible action on 2023-2024 adult meal prices.
All right, the current meal prices for breakfast are $2.75, and for breakfast and lunch is $4.25. We would like to raise it for adults to breakfast for $3 and lunch $4.50.
Any questions?
Food is more expensive.
Yep. Food has gone up. No. Okay.
I think that's a pretty reasonable increase for as much as we're going up.
Yeah. Okay, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the 2023-2024 adult meal prices.
A motion by Chad, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mike. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right, let's discuss student conduct. Code of conduct.
This is the updated student code of conduct. We get a model each year from TASB, and then it's kind of like the student handbook. There's some options, and so with our board policy, they have different areas that's highlighted, and I meant to put the other one so you could see it, but they have different areas highlighted, and I just take the board policy and compare which one we are, because there's some options, and then update it. And so this is what you get here.
I got a few questions on this. It kind of aligns with this discipline matrix too. I know that's a little bit different thing. I'm trying to figure out, wrap around my head. But, so I have some questions, a lot of DAP ISS questions. So how do we currently staff DAP and ISS annually?
Well, we have we hired an aide. We've used an aide in the past. And so that's in our DOI that we can use an aide instead of a certified teacher. And so we have 2 rooms at the high school. We have an ISS room and then we have a DAP room. The DAP room, I believe if he hadn't swapped them, I told him he could use either or, used to be the teacher's workroom right across. And this is at the high school, what the high school and junior high use.
Right.
Is right across from the office. And then the ISS room is all the way down the hall to the left. It has its own restroom and all that. And well, actually, they both do.
So, and then I guess, which one is more severe? DAP?
DAP is more severe.
So then,
But like, you know, some of the difference is an ISS, you can still participate in practice. We don't let you do anything else, but if you're at an event like, you know, let's say you play football and you're an ISS, then you can go to practice and practice, but that's all you can go to. You can't go to any other school events and things like that, so you can participate in practice. DAP, you can't.
you can't practice or anything?
No, sir.
All right, so, I got quite a few questions. So like on the DAP, do you think there's gonna be an increase with what the state did on the vaping? Like, do we have the room for that many kids? Because like DAP, you can get in trouble with DAP and extend it, right? Continue to extend it. Like if you're in, say you have 5 days in DAP and the 3rd day you do something and you extend your DAP.
We could.
Because out of school suspension, you can only do 3 days at a time, right?
Right.
But like I said, so if they're in DAP, they can't practice, they can't do anything.
Right.
Do we have anything on fence level, like your first DAP, your second, your third, your fourth? Like, do we let them go to DAP 4 times and they're still in athletics?
We don't have a policy on that. I mean, we could, but we don't currently, no, sir.
So that's something I guess we need to discuss for the school. Because to me, it's still extracurricular, you're still, if you can't act around class.
Right. No, I agree.
And then who's over DAP and ISS? The principals?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then that just comes to you.
And like, and another difference is in DAP, we have a hearing,
Right.
and then they're assigned their DAP. In ISS, we don't have a hearing or anything like that, so.
And then, so, back to that other question, do you think we're gonna have a bunch, an influx from the vaping because it's mandatory now? Do you think we're gonna have enough classrooms, I guess?
Well, the new rules states that if you fill up your DAP, you can use the ISS room
Right.
and house the ones in there.
Okay.
So I think at times we may,
So, how many kids, I mean, it's a normal classroom, right?
no, it's smaller actually, unless he switched them. And I think it's just gonna be something we're gonna have to see,
Right.
you know, because there is a normal classroom, that's where the ISS is now. And so, I mean, if we needed to, we could flip them and put DAP down
Sure,
there. I
right.
mean, we just gotta see how it's gonna, I mean, since this is new, it's new to us
Right.
also.
That's
So we're
why I was
just-
wondering.
Right,
So do we always use the same aide?
yes. Mhm.
That person always does?
Yeah, we just hired a new one, because the other one, quit. We let one go last year,
Uh-huh.
and then, the other one didn't come back, and so we hired a new one.
So we've got one for ISS and DAP, or?
Right now, we just have one for ISS or DAP, either or. And then, let's say if we need somebody, then we can grab a sub or whatever to put in the ISS room.
I'm just thinking, how's it so different from ISS to DAP besides the extracurricular activities?
That's really not. I mean, they're just, basically, it's a removal from the classroom. And,
Because we don't have any other buildings.
right, yes, sir.
So can you put them in the same class, an ISS student and a DAP student?
You're not supposed, if you've got separate, you're supposed to keep them separate, and we try to do that, but at times, I mean, you know.
Okay. I got lots of questions.
Right.
And then, So like, then I'll go to the matrix on that then.
Okay.
Because one thing I'm going with on the DAP students that, you know, continually go to DAP and then they get to continue to play sports or band or whatever it may be. You know, what do we do to kids that follow the rules, you know? I mean, what do they get for a reward? They get to go to school and, you know, they get disrupted to class or, I mean, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. So these others that don't do what they're supposed to be doing, you know, I know I'll beat a dead horse about this, but and I know it's not, we can't change things that are in the home, but they can act right when they're in the building. You know, it's a distraction for every kid, you know, if we wonder probably why our scores go up or down, I mean, I'm sure when a kid throws chairs every day or whatever, I'm sure that's probably pretty distracting for a lot of kids. You know, that is, so going to the discipline matrix, and I've talked a little bit to Jason about this, and I don't totally get this, but I would like to talk about it more, and if it's something we need to change in our school policy, I would like to look at it. If nobody else would, that's fine, but I just want to talk to you guys about it, especially on the Class 3 stuff. And I talked to Jason a little bit about this, and he gave me a little explanation, but, you know, to me, the discipline matrix is like a SOP, as a guide for teachers, principals, or whatever, right? Like you have an offense, then I get it's not, hey, Billy wouldn't quit talking, you know, like you're going on this. I get it. You know, and we all have SOPs where we work, and you got to follow them because it's just how it works. That's point number one. I mean, if we're going to have policies and we're not following them, why do we have policies? I mean, that's me. If we're not following them. The Class 3 stuff, you know, we have 1 offense, 2 offense, 3 offense, 4 offense, 5 offense. And I talked to Jason a little bit about this, but I'll say what I said. To me, on paper, when I'm a parent signing something, that's fine. And I know we may never get there. I know your first offense may be your last offense, and that's fine too. But seeing as this thing starts over every single year, if it's a scuffle, well, you can have 4 scuffles a year. That's 16 in a high school. That's, what, 3 more years over at the junior high you can have a scuffle if you continue to scuffle, not just fist fighting. I think the 5's too lenient. I think a message of, personally, I think a message of 3, you know, and you know, the fighting, and, you know, it's crazy that vaping is a higher punishment than anything else in here. I don't know whether we match that to be an equal consequence, or what we do, because, I mean, fighting mutual combat, I get it. It's all different situation, right? But it's 3 ISS, 5 ISS, 10 ISS. Well, heck, you're only missing a couple. You know, you're still getting practice. You're not even going to miss a game, you know, if you did it on Monday, because you'll be done by 3:40 that afternoon on your second offense, and you get to play. Well, they're out there representing us, you know, and all the other, you know, it's the old saying of every action you do, you know, everything you do has an action on everybody around you. I mean, I don't know when we're going to start being just a little, not even hard, but having a little bit more accountability on the kids too. Not only one, would help the teachers, the classroom, you know, if we're sticking to it and getting them. I mean, there was a day, and I know a lot of people say you can't do what you used to, but there's other routes and avenues to get to these points. I'm not here to say that I want to expel every bad kid or anything. That's not what I'm looking for. But there's got to reach a point. Like, you can only be so much of a disruption to a school or to a building or to your class or whatever, you know, before you reach that point. And do I know what that point is yet? No, I don't. But That's why I want to have a conversation with all of y'all, because sometimes, I mean, everybody's completely outnumbered in all these buildings. It's pretty hard to keep up with that many kids, even in a small school. So the more we can do to help teachers, principals, and other kids that are trying to succeed, I think that's the avenue we need to take. So I'll get off my high horse, but that's just kind of where I stand on it, and if I stand alone, that's fine. But I kind of feel like a lot of that attributes to also to a lot of things that happen, you know, not just the athletics, but I mean, just as far as, you know, does that affect our star scores? Does that affect, you know, morale from a teacher to an aide to anybody that works here? You know, you got a bunch of disrespectful kids running around, and nobody wants to work here. Like, I get it. And I was a kid once too, so I've been there. But I also knew the consequences and got dealt with it, you know. So you either learn or you don't. Because to me, we're not doing, especially a high school kid, any favor if we call them all the way out the door. Because it's mean the world's going to chew you up, spit you out, and they're going to call you. But so I don't know if we need to be stiffer on our policy to that way the discipline matrix can reflect it. I don't know if that's what needs to happen. If y'all know, let me know. If that has nothing to do with the discipline matrix, let me know. But
I've never thought about it like you did, 16 lots.
I know we're probably not going to reach that, but as a parent, just the argument's sake of we're going to escalate and have things, well, you stay here, but I know we also have our disclaimer. I
Right,
get it, but it also says right here,
right.
well, this is only his fourth offense. If he's good the rest of the year, then we start over at 0 next year. I mean, as a parent, if we put it in black and white and say, hey, right here, we told you. I mean, that's me, you know. You were a principal, you got kids in your office, you got the same kid in your office over and over. I mean, I got sent to the office. And yeah, I didn't get ISS or whatever, you know, but I got dealt with whatever that issue was. And yes, I have been to ISS when my mother was the teacher. So yes, I get it. And that was real ISS. You didn't leave, you didn't go to the office, you didn't run errands for them, you didn't. And that was another question I have. When they're in those classrooms, do they stay there all day?
Well, some that DAP, they do ISS, the teacher can go get them if they need them for something like if they're got an important part of their lesson, then they can go get them, take them to the classroom, and then take them straight back. And so,
Okay.
So what happens when they do get to that 5 level in a year?
I don't know, I've never gotten there.
Never gotten
No,
there.
not even close on any of it. You know, I was a high school principal 11 years and never got close to that.
3 or 4 they usually leave. From what I said, 3 or 4. Once they hit 3 or 4 incidents with Jason, or whoever the principal might be, the kid typically,
Because the fifth is coming.
well, even before the discipline matrix was there, it would, I know in my son's class, he had a couple of kids that were less than,
But why should we allow 4?
Well, because I probably, in that class, there was about 5 or 6 of them that never made it past their freshman year.
No, I get it.
And I mean, you know, when they were in junior high, the cops were called on a daily basis.
Yeah.
I've got to work to reach the kids.
Well, I understand that. I
And,
mean,
and there are certain kids that at some point you're going to reach,
sure.
but if you give up on them and I don't think you get, because we don't know, we as a board don't know what their situation is at home or whatever they're dealing with. Maybe they don't have one.
Yeah, you know, and my job as an educator is to educate kids too. And not only, you know, are we educating them about, you know, math, I mean, you know, we're trying to teach them how to act and all that also. So that's part of this too. I mean,
Right.
I'm not going to give up on a kid. I mean, you know, that's just not my nature. I mean, because at the same time, you know, you got to realize they're a kid also.
I get it.
And so, kids are gonna do dumb stuff, and so that's why, as a principal, I pushed, the number one thing, if you're not supervising kids, they are gonna do something stupid. I mean, and so my biggest deal is, when we had kids, not to leave them unsupervised, because if you leave them unsupervised, you're opening the door. I promise, something stupid's gonna happen. And so, that was a big deal, but, and I think consistency, if they know, they are gonna do something about it, that's a big,
Enforcing it and
yeah.
being consistent.
Yeah, the
yeah,
leadership
being
is
consistent,
big.
that was my deal as a principal. I try to be consistent and, with the punishment. And so, and if if they don't like it in there, and then that helps, because I put stools in ISS, they didn't have desks, they had stools, and then they had the clipboards to write their stuff, which we have Chromebooks now, so it's a little tougher. I think they do have desks in there now, so they can use their Chromebook, so, and I'm not saying, that our thing is perfect and that it doesn't need to be changed. I'm not saying that either. I mean, we're willing to do whatever, I want the kids to, all kids to have a good experience in school and, feel safe when they're here. That's, and so whatever we need to do to accomplish that, we're willing to do. I mean,
And I don't, like I said, I know we can't fix it right this second, but it's something, if we're going to, if we were going to implement it this year, we need to be done very quickly. But,
yeah, like today.
yeah. So we can fix it today. But what I'm saying,
Tonight.
so looking back at your matrix though, if we never get to 5, which, that's fine, I'm probably by myself in that area, but that's okay. Like I said, the vaping is the harshest penalty already. So, and I know that's from the state, but it's automatic BEAP, there is no ISS, there's nothing like
Right.
that. So you're automatically not gonna practice, not gonna do anything.
Right.
Do I think we need to put a cap on as far as a extracurricular? I think we do. If you're continually in there, then you obviously need to learn something to take care of your school. And also, like I said, it's a tool for teachers and principals. I mean, we got kids and that's our number one goal, but we also have staff that if we don't have them, we ain't gonna have anything, so. I mean, I think
Would
it's
that
equally
fall-
important to give them something solid to stand on. And if y'all think that's solid, that's fine. Like I said, it's the 5 chance deal bothers me as far as having a parent, here you go, sign this. And I know we have the disclaimer, I know. And I know there's some other ready at the bottom, I know.
Let me ask you this. So you said you never got close to 5. Did you have any kids that were like 2 their freshman year, 2 their sophomore year, like?
Oh, yeah, I mean, I had kids that I dealt with, a couple times a year their whole,
But just thinking as a parent, like, say it was,
because, if you look at that, you got different teachers. So, and there's gonna be personality conflicts between students and teachers.
oh,
So, I mean, you're gonna have that, and so,
I was thinking more along, I guess in my mind, I was thinking as a parent, like, if this kid's been getting in 2 fights a year, hurting kids, and then my kid gets, anybody's kid gets that 8th one their senior year through high school, like, you're gonna have parents going, hey, like, this has been an ongoing problem, and because it resets every year. And that's why I was asking about like the bullying and stuff before, about resetting and sexual
Yeah, to me,
harassment
the
and stuff
bullying,
like
the
that.
bullying portion would be the biggest
right.
for me. Like,
All
you
right.
do that 2 or 3 times.
I said, it's just that class 3 part that bothers me, and I know vaping, you probably shouldn't be kicked out, but you're probably gonna be done playing sports at least, after 3 times, I would hope.
It is a
Because
big
you just
problem.
can't learn. But
So does that not
It's a
fall
huge
underneath the
that's a state.
the
guideline, so you probably
athletic?
can't-
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, they get 3 days in DAEP. Wiggins has a decision on whether they play or not. That falls underneath Wiggins.
Well, and they've got to make up their punishment too.
Yeah, and if they don't make
Before
up
they
their punishment, then they don't play, or shouldn't.
What I'm saying.
But that falls underneath the,
It does, but it can fall under school policy too, because it's extracurricular. I'm not just talking about that, I'm talking about
well, yeah,
business professionals, whatever, band
Right,
or whatever.
Anything, yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna keep causing problems, and you've got to learn that, we've got to, if we care about them, let's fix this first. Don't worry about the extracurriculars
Like
like
say,
next
like
year.
in cheerleading, they mess up once, they're,
It just depends. They have a book about like this, they have it on there.
so, I think that would fall under athletic policy. It's no different than when we were in high school, like, you messed up out the lake, here's your first offense, here's your second offense, third one, like, you know. And that's up to the AD to, if they wanna, you know, go above and beyond school policy, school metrics. But I see where you're coming from, wanting to hold kids accountable, but if we're never getting to 4 and 5,
Well, why do we got 4 or 5 on there? We're never getting there.
right? I see that's other things too.
Like I said, I get you can pick it apart. I mean, I don't think you should be kicked out of school. I mean, I don't know when you make that decision, but I know kids just, for whatever reason, won't give it up. I don't know how to fix it. But
I don't think
if
you
we're
can.
continually sexually
Yeah, I don't
harassed,
think you have.
I mean, if it's one little slight sexual
Because it
harassment.
used to be cigarettes, you know, back then I used to deal with that. And now, I mean, you know, you don't really ever see a kid with a cigarette, I mean, at school. Because, I mean, you can get caught with that, vapes, it's just so hard to catch them. I mean, it really is.
Yeah, like sexual harassment and bullying, I think should be above or equal to the worst punishment, for sure. I haven't had a chance to look at the new one. I was busy all day today. But if it's not equal to it, I think it needs to be. You kind of got to put a stop to those two if they're happening.
Somebody's going to. And I never get in trouble. For our matrix, then it's fine. But I mean, I know that's one of those incidents you talk about right there, that you can,
Well, you know, they're not necessarily gonna get in trouble.
right, that's,
but I
you can
mean-
still self-defend, I mean, you can still talk
Yes,
about yourself.
oh, yeah.
But that's what I understand, all that.
But, you know, there's a difference between, to me, between, you know, self-defense and retaliation also.
Sure,
I
yeah,
mean, so
yeah.
you know, there's.
And I get that, that's y'all's
Right,
decision to make.
Right,
And that's totally fine. I mean, if the kid was self-defense, great.
right. No, I agree.
And so I understand the differences in what we were talking about. You know, I just, like I said, if they never get there, why not have it, and then we've got to do something of, like I said, if they're going to DAP, we're gonna have to pull something from them if they're continually going to DAP. Because obviously they're not learning. If you've got something to pull away, just like you do anywhere else, you know, you pull it away, and then if that doesn't learn, then they're never gonna learn. I mean, then you may get somebody that says, man, I really messed with that, and I don't want to do that anymore, you know?
But there's kids that are in DAEP that never
I understand.
step as extracurricular activity in their life.
But that doesn't mean the one that's playing any sport that goes to DAP, the same amount this kid does, is better than the kid that doesn't play sports.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, there's equally,
But that would.
I know there's
that would
nothing to
fall
pull
under-
away from that kid, but the kid's doing an extracurricular activity.
and then that falls underneath the athletic,
Athletic or cheerleading, band.
whatever
You can make a school policy, that's all I'm saying.
they do, we do. Do we not? Underneath the athletic program? Is there not?
I mean, he can do it too, yes, he can. He can do
I
anything
mean,
he
he's got his discipline matrix for
wants. That's fine.
that.
I'm just saying, I think something needs to be done with it. Whether that's him or us, or I don't know. Maybe y'all can tell me. If that's him, we can ask him, or if he doesn't want to do it, then I don't know. I guess we do. I don't know. That's why I'm asking y'all. If that's overstepping my bounds, because I would understand, I could understand the frustration of a teacher or a principal that's punishing this kid, and then they go out, and you hear it, oh, I can play, whatever, blah, 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 whatever. I'm not saying it's his policy that allows it, I'm just saying that's from policies ever, from when I was in school.
Right.
That's gotta be frustrating as crap, I would think. Like, well, yeah, I can put them in here, but then they get to go do this, or they get to
But he
go.
still has control over that.
It's not just him.
I mean, whoever,
Dan.
well, that's him.
That's what I'm saying, it's a school policy, school policy. Then we don't have to ask Coach Williams.
So you're saying add something to the matrix that removes extracurricular activities if they're there. If the child is playing extracurricular or in some kind of extracurricular activity, add that to the matrix to where that goes away after somebody DA.
You know,
Is that what you mean?
yeah, I mean, at some point in time, we gotta do something on that. And I'm not trying to take anything away from anybody that does, coaches, teaches, anything extracurricular. I'm just thinking as a district, we're all here to do what's best. And if I'm doing something that's not what's best, then tell me. But I just think we need to hold them a little bit more accountable. I think, like I said, the 5 chances on the class 3s, I think we need to look at that and shorten it. Like I said, we never get there. Like I said, I know the vaping would have to be something totally different, because to me, I just don't see that. See that. I know it's a problem. Smoking out, you're just gonna keep getting in trouble. So yes, that's what I'm asking.
We would have to look at
That's what I'm asking.
all the extracurricular activity matrices and see which one is more strict, because say Mr. Lucas and band, like, one time DAP, like, you're done with band. I'm just making something up.
Right.
And then he goes, well, I don't want to go to 3, like athletics has or something, and I don't know which one, what that one is either. Just throwing out some numbers. We'd have to look at it and say, okay,
Well, then we could.
Let's
you
make a
could-
flat playing field for everybody.
Well, you could do that, or you could put a maximum. I mean, if, well, I'll just use Mr. Lucas, if he says 1 and that's it, that's fine. But the max is 3, and you're done. Or
I
whatever.
mean, I guess we could put a max in the school policy, and then they could still override, just like they would now. Like, no, my rule is 1. I know the school policy's that, but you sign my rule, it said 1 time, or 2 times. Whatever it is. So I know in athletics, they have to sign.
So if we had, say we had the 5 offenses, right? The first one's, well, however many days ISS, whatever. Second one is DAEP, however many days. Third one's DAEP. Then you get to the 4th, and we add DAEP, just a number, a month out of extracurricular activities. Is that what you're trying to say?
I would say longer by the 4th time, but.
Right, well, yeah,
Yeah.
that- just numbers.
like that? Is it the third time?
Where
Third
that
or fourth time where
overrules
there's
the other 16.
You know, because the first time DAP, you missed practice. It's 3 days. So you deal with playing game, if you did it early enough in the week.
And make up your bunch.
Right. And then, or band, or whatever else. I'm just,
Well, and most DAP offenses are longer tenured also. So, I mean, it's not like they're gonna get DAP for 3 days. I mean, you know, we did DAP on the vapes for 5 days just because, I mean, and then 10 or, you know, so on, just because I do think you'll have some repeat offenders in there. And, you know, with them being out of class that long, I mean, we're trying to educate them and, you know, they're in a room in a cubicle instead of getting, you know, taught by the teacher. So, I mean, I don't know. That's why, you know, that one is shorter. Because most DAP offenses, I mean, you're looking at a minimum of 10 days, 30, 45, 90, or is normally what you're looking at. So, I mean, if you're in there for 45 days, you're probably not doing extracurriculars at all anyway.
and I would say by the time.
'Cause that's 9 weeks.
I say by the time you did 45 days, you're out of extracurricular, but that's me. I mean, we've got to make it not cool being DAP or ISS.
Right.
Because if they go in there like, hey, I get screwed out all day.
No, I agree with you there. I mean, you know, it,
That has severe consequence to it besides just being pulled away from your class.
right.
And I know there's kids that don't do anything extracurricular. If you set the limit, at some point in time, maybe you need to send them home so their parents have to stay with them. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Well, what, you know, what I don't like about that is then they're getting zero punishment from a lot of parents.
Right.
Because you're gonna send them home and they're playing Xbox all day with nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
And this could be where I said it wasn't, you know, maybe it's not, because it's not a one-size-fits-all.
Right.
Here it is in
No,
elementary. You know, we know an awful lot of people, but, hey, my kid's gonna do what my kid's gonna do. Just drop them off. You have to miss some work because your kid's gonna do what your kid wants to do, and I bet a lot of that can stop.
All they're gonna do is, if they had to leave work, come pick them up, drop them off unsupervised.
And they're just gonna go back to work.
You know, when they said they was gonna call my parents to come pick me up, I asked them, my parents. I don't ever remember that. Is it gonna be okay if your parents come get you? Are they gonna leave you alone, or, you know, that's the parents. The school has a job, the parent has a job.
But if
And I'm not trying to put any kid in harm, but what I'm saying is, what the parents do with the kid, you know, and I'm not talking about a kid that just, I'm talking about a repeat, constant disruption that won't stop. If we've got nowhere else to put them, or what, and I understand there's different classifications, I do understand that.
right.
Like I said, there's a reason I'm not a teacher, but, I mean, that would be very mind-numbing to me, that they just keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. And there's nothing you can do. Or, you know, if that's the case, then maybe we're not following our matrix. Could be the case. Because I don't.
No, and I agree with you there. I do think that, that plays into it a lot also. I mean, you know, and that's one thing that I push with the principals is, you know, to make sure they're doing that. And, you know, and at times last year, I don't want to know. And so, you know, I'm hoping this year, well, you know, that, because there's, you know, new faces in places, and so, you know, and I'm not blaming anybody that's not here right now, but, you know, I know we can do better, and we're gonna work to get better and do it, and, you know, I don't know, you know, if there was a solution, we'd make a lot of money, I promise you that.
And I have confidence that if a principal sees a teacher who's not following the matrix, they would say something. I have complete confidence in that. I know that's a lot of places to be in one time. So, I mean, it's trying to get that convinced from the teacher to push, to follow the matrix, and, you know, I know that's just a talk from their leadership, that, hey, you know, we're gonna follow the matrix or whatever.
You know, and really, it's not so much the teacher. I mean, they don't follow it. You know, really, that's on the principal to make sure the matrix, because, I mean, they're the one dishing out the punishment. And so, you know, it's really on
I
their
know they can be
shoulders.
everywhere all the time, so, but I'll digress.
You know, like on the teacher's end of it, it's just, you know, classroom management and that type of deal, and, you know. So, I wish I had an answer for you, but
No, I know, we just gotta have a discussion to start anything.
Right.
If we don't discuss it, we'll never.
no, I agree. I agree.
Like I said, I'll, with complete confidence, I think our staff, the principals, if they know something's going on, they'll handle it. I'm not worried about that. But like I said, it's an SOP to me, or it's a policy, and what makes a policy if you don't? It's a tool. So I don't know, how do we move forward with the other, as far as the class 3 offenses? We're picking and choosing between bullying, sexual harassment, fighting, tobacco. Are we gonna make it all the same? I know we'll have an influx in our classroom, but maybe somebody will learn a lesson. You know, I mean, that's also our job. It's not our job to parent, I know that. Or the teachers or anybody else's. They're educators. And I know all teachers have a soft spot for kids, or they wouldn't do it. I just think it needs to be a little stiffer on class 3. If y'all want to go 5, if we never get there, that's fine. But it needs to be stiffer.
think there's kids that, if those kids that are 2, 3, working towards 4, those are the kids that, in my opinion, are the kids that we need to be trying to reach the most, because those are the kids that you don't,
So at what point do you,
You don't get a lot of one-on-one
it's
time.
theoretical, sounds like, because they don't ever get to that point, but
no.
if you do have one that gets to 5, do you just keep going and letting them disrupt the class and, or bully or sexual harass or whatever? What happens after the 3 or 5?
I think it's dismissed.
Expulsions, fines.
On all class threes, number 5's expulsion.
And I don't, I mean, y'all may, I don't know the last time I've expelled a kid. I mean,
There's some happens.
they were, we didn't in the 11 years I was under there, but, I mean, I couldn't tell you the last
And
time.
like you said, like Billy said, they left, but it was on chance 4, or, after chance.
Or
After
even not
before
even
the
that.
fence.
Yeah.
So, that's what I was saying, they were stepping up to that, and they were like, oh, well, that says that, I'm sure a principal or a parent or somebody.
But, honestly, you deal with a lot of level 2s, and then, here and there, you'll have a level 3 here and there. I mean, probably a handful of times a year, maybe, if that's probably too many, honestly.
Yeah.
But, and on another note, the thing about it is too, if we're booting kids out of school or we're doing this and that, part of our, accountability, getting kids graduated, and if they're not graduating, then we're gonna get hammered there also. And, and I felt my job as a high school principal is to make sure that every kid that walked through that door graduated. Now, did they? Hell, no, they didn't. I mean, that was just part of it, but,
And that's why he's a good principal.
that's, so, I see both sides of it, I really do, and I think we do the best that we can, and I don't know, like I said, there's not a, we can do this and it's gonna fix it. I wish there was. I
But, and
mean,
like you said, in the DAP, that's not a very large percentage that are hitting.
no, there's
It's
not.
probably the vapors now, but
Yeah.
it'll end up getting it. But I mean, like I said, they're gonna ring you up to round 4 anyways. So, I think it's the fighting, bullying, sexual harassment, I think it's, for me as a person would be, I think I would be not making a wise decision to allow 5 chances to get to that. Because if they ring you up to that fifth, that 4th may be the worst, and you can say, man, they have boom, boom, and say we let them, right? And we even allow that to get there. To me, I don't feel like that's a good choice for, it's me making a decision by myself. As a whole, we can go yes or no, it's one way or the other.
I think we'll have a disclaimer, because there's been instances where kids went, it wasn't 10 days first offense, I mean, it was
30.
weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the parents could come up and complain, even file a grievance. But it's right here. I don't think it was a more serious offense, and that's how we handled
I
it.
see what you're saying, though, about them being more stringent than that. I understand where you're coming from.
And I don't agree with that, but,
If we were gonna change anything on it, those 3 would need to be equal to or worse than that. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I trust you to make the right decision and the principals to make the right decision. And if somebody is to the point where y'all feel like it's disrupting everybody, making a problem, that the decision to handle it will be made. And if it ever comes to a point where it doesn't, then make it policy. And if it's there, make it policy.
Like Logan says, the first offense could be 160. If
Right.
the severity's there, that's why you never get to 5, but you can do it in 1.
and honestly, thinking back, I don't know how many times you know, we've had a repeat defender in DAP to where, you know, they participated in things, to be honest with you. Because, I mean, most of the time, you know, if they're in DAP for 30 or 45 days, they're done with whatever they're, and I'm not gonna say it's happened every time, but most times, I mean, they're,
How often do we rotate through our ISS? Repeat.
oh, here and there, I mean. And I mean, again, you know, it just depends, because, you know, we've had some really bad classes that had several bad kids, and you get one that got, you know, every group has a couple of knuckleheads, you know, and so, you know, I don't know. Like I said, I wish I had an answer for you. I don't. I mean, like I said, we're gonna do the best we can. We wanna keep the kids safe. And, you know, we're gonna do everything in our power to do that, and, you know, and get them graduated. I mean, that's, when we graduated, you know, that's the thing about it. You know, there's some kids 4 or 5 years ago that I dealt with on a regular basis, and, you know, came up and, you know, to me, saw him in a grocery store and came up and gave me a hug and said, man, I wish I would have listened to you. He said, I was a knucklehead and, you know, and married and has kids and has, you know, makes more money than I do, you know, so, you know, I don't know, you know, that's just, like I said, I don't have an answer for you. I just, you know, and if you want, we want up those on the discipline matrix, we can. I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
So in ISS and PAP, since we just haven't paid, do they, the ones that are in there on a I mean, just, you know, they're in there 2-3 days, whatever, 5 days, are they doing their work? Who's making sure they're doing their work? Are they just in there goofing off? That's my question, not really the severe, I just wanna know what they're doing in there.
They get an assignment, they got their Chromebook, they can get their assignments. Now, they're not getting instruction most of the time unless it's, you know, on the Chromebook or through that. And so, I mean, that's what makes it tough with being down there, is because they're not getting the instruction the other kids are. And with getting in trouble, they, you know, shouldn't have the same privileges as the, you know, kid that's not getting in trouble. But, you know, and that's the thing about having somebody that's, you know, good in DAP or ISS too, is, you know, so it's not fun to be down there. I mean, you know, and so, you know, not allowing them to sleep or lay around or do whatever. And so, and that was one of the biggest reasons the person that did it last year, you know, was no longer with us, is because, you know, that they weren't making sure that was happening. And so we made a change there, and we hired a new one this year, so hopefully it'll be taken care of. But, you know, they ought to be in there to do their work, and that's it.
That's my thing about it. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be fun, but
No.
in order for them to get out of it and, you know, keep up with their peers, they've got to stay in class.
Mhm.
Not just
No, you're right.
go. And you know, I've heard of, you know, where I don't like this teacher, she wants to make us do an essay this week, and I hate essays. I'm just gonna fax it. We ain't gonna do nothing in there. That's what I don't like. That's what I have a problem with.
You
And
should
it's hard.
still be responsible for doing the work that they have to do even in regular
Yeah,
class.
but if you don't, and you're an ISS,
You just get 0.
anyway,
Not gonna
but
do
that's only what I think. I mean, I think with the state and so many of the things that they tie their hands, it's hard to make it like we would do at home, because, oh yeah, there's no third chances at home house. So, I mean, I get it, but I want to make sure they're being productive. And I understand with our, you know, with your employees and different things, you know, but I just, whoever's in there, whether it's an aide, a teacher, whatever, they just need to be responsible, make sure they're productive. And the principals need to make sure, check up, or whoever needs to check up and make sure that it's not fun and they're doing their work.
I agree.
No, I see what we need, assistant principal.
I'm good with what like Chad said, you know, if we match those, you know, they'll automatically take. Do I think something, you know, I don't care if it's 5 days. If you're in there, it goes from 5 to 10 to 15, if you're in there 3 times something extracurricular, that's, I think at some point in time you lose the privilege, and that's what it is, the privilege to do something extra and to represent the school. Like that's just me, but I do think everything, I think if you match that on the class 3s, I think that'll probably knock a lot of it off, maybe. They still got their 5. I mean, you know, the only thing that's changing is you're going from, instead of ISS, you're going to DEAP. And if we decide to carry it above that, you go to DEAP so many times, you're done for the month, the year, whatever, you learn your lesson that way. I mean, I don't want to take a senior out from any extracurricular they do their senior year. But if they've had 4 chances, they've had 4 chances, or whatever it is. I mean,
No, I don't have a problem with
It's
that.
a freebie.
I don't have a problem with that, because at the same time, like you said earlier, I mean, we're taking to represent us
Yeah.
in, you know, other places, and so, I mean, you know, I don't want to be responsible for somebody that's gonna, you know, act like a fool if we're in, you know, if we're in Spearman or Stinnett or, you know, where, Panhandle or wherever it
I
may be.
mean, you know, just as other schools do, when they have an incident, that news is, oh, they got somebody else did something, or whatever, you know, it's constant. Because it's gonna happen, because they're kids.
Well, I think for aesthetics alone, as a parent looking at that matrix, if somebody was to dig into that matrix and see that a vape was more stringent than sexual harassment, that just doesn't make sense in most common sense heads. To change that to match at least the worst punishment for those on class 3 would make sense.
Yeah, we can do that.
You just make them all match. You can start off, I mean, I'm just asking. You know, it's at the day. So your first one on vape's 5, 10, 15, 30, and then expulsion. I don't, you know, like Chad said, sexual harassment probably needs to be more than 5 days, which I know you all can do, whatever, that's just the standard guideline you can. So, I mean, I'm fine with that. If that's and then, if you, I don't know if you want to talk to all your, like Logan said, one may be stricter than the other. I don't want to cut anybody's feet up from under them, especially if they're like, I got 1. You can't let it go 3, okay? You know, at some point, we got to draw a line somewhere, I think, before that 5 on the extracurriculars.
Oh, no, I agree.
So,
I agree.
Yeah, just because, say we have 3 or whatever, if band or UIL or cheerleading or whatever says, we've got a no tolerance policy. Great on them. That's their policy, so.
That's just a max that they
but
It's on the discipline.
what?
I was just joking. It's on the discipline matrix.
Is everybody good with that?
I took the long road back there, sorry.
No,
Do you
you're,
agree?
no, I think it's a good discussion.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, I don't see sexual harassment less than vaping. It should be, I actually think it should be stiffer, but.
Well, like you said, you can put them in
Well,
there
it's
for.
their discretion.
And then it's at their
As far as,
Right.
you know, as far as looking at the paperwork, if the parent was looking at that, say their kid was sexually harassed or whatever the case may be, and they see that vaping is more stringent than that, I mean, that
Sure.
doesn't, it's just the aesthetics of it. Plus, if it were to, God forbid, something happened.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see, we were at.
The student code of conduct.
Code of conduct, AP, so.
Did
Did you want to talk about any other things in there?
Don't got any other questions?
Okay.
All our vape detectors still working.
Yeah.
They'll still send it. They just sent a signal to the phone, didn't it? The principal's phone. Race down there to.
Well, that, or, you know, they get on the cameras and look to see who was in there, and they, yeah. And so, and I think it helped, I really do, 'cause, I mean, there were several in there last year for vapes, so.
Anything else? Okay. Have a motion to approve the student code of conduct.
I move to approve the student code of conduct.
Motion by Doug, do I have a second? Second by Logan. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right. Bond discussion.
Well, as you know, we've been up and down on this. At one point, we didn't think we are gonna be able to do it, and now, we'll be able to do it. And so, and again, last year, we had a bond committee, and, we came up with a list of, needs and wants, for each campus, what they thought, or what they, need. And so we came up with this list, and so now our next step would be to determine what y'all want on the list. And so we can meet with the architect so he can give us an idea on how much everything's gonna cost. So then, we can go from there. And so here's a list of the bond. And I know we've had this on there for a couple times now, so I guess tonight we just need to decide, if there's things you want to take off, if there's things that you want to add to it that we don't have on here. So we're just, we need y'all's input on this.
Is the Champs building to tear it down?
Yes.
Can we do that in stages?
I doubt it.
You could do the asbestos in one stage and then the actual tear down as another stage. The asbestos would probably be the most important thing anyway, because after the asbestos is out there, it stops being an environmental danger.
I mean, we could just go out there with some rented dozers and knock it down.
That might be a little difficult, but
You'll get rid of it if you got rid of all the expensive.
Rent a
I mean,
dozer
that
and
might
a
be
track
good.
hoe.
Yeah.
Good job.
Even if you give it away, it'd be cheaper to turn it down.
Right.
We've tried to give it away.
I said if all this.
After the asbestos removal.
Well, after the asbestos removal, those people that were interested,
taxes is still the big problem, because like the monthly tax bill on the facility, it's still rated at, it's still a several, like 40,000 square foot building so it's gonna be like 14,000 a month in taxes or something like that. And so everybody who's looked at it has gone, no.
yeah, no lie.
And when we talk to the tax assessor and we're like, hey, the roof's falling in, it's really not worth that, and he's like, yeah, well, that's what we have it at, so.
Do we have plans for after it's down?
No.
To-
I
do
don't
we-
want,
Well, I know, but I mean, like, this is my thought, because it's gonna cost quite a bit to do it, and to put it in front of the community, because it does need to be done. I mean, I drive by and I call y'all all the time, there's another window out, there's another pane, there's another window. It's just, it does need to be done, but I think if we leave it on there, and I do think it needs to be left on there, it might benefit us to kind of figure out, some options, or even take surveys of options to do with that, and I really think that would help the community to figure out, yeah, this would be a good thing for us.
I mean, there's lots of things that you could potentially do.
Indoor practice facility?
With turf.
Potentially,
It's indoor, I'll sign off.
you could potentially
Don't make the land.
try to reutilize the land for something. I mean, You could put a big old storage shed or something on it. You could try to sell it as lots. Now, the title is never going to be 100% clear, because I have told you about the railroad owning it, correct? So there's always going to be a little bit of a specter to the title, so people buying it, I mean, there's gonna be a disclaimer on any title they buy that it's not a clear title. So you could try to sell it as lots. You could donate it to another city or another nonprofit. I mean, there's lots of choices what you could do. Right now, it's just a big asbestos building that you can't do anything with.
Right. I just think for people that haven't been here with us through the thick and thin and the fight, you know, it's like, why spend that much money on a vacant building? But, so if we do keep it on there, I do think we should kind of figure out, put our heads together, or maybe even ask, you know, survey, what would y'all like us to do with it? You know, I don't know, I just think that would be a bonus.
And survey sounds like a great idea to me.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've still got months yet.
Yeah,
So, yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
that's just to me one of the things that definitely, I hate to spend our, you know, our savings on something like that, that's gotta be done. We've messed with it since I've been on the board 15 years, and we've messed with it for 15 years.
Almost, yeah.
So, yeah.
What about the parking lots? They're pretty in, like the elementaries and, junior high is in pretty rough shape, isn't it?
There are some segments of the junior high parking lot that are very bad. There's also a big hole over here that's where the buses come out that's pretty bad. We even want to throw in a little bit of the asphalt going into the field, because that's really bad. I mean, it's just like a big hole there. Just we have lots of little spaces where we need to rework the asphalt. All throughout the district, even at the elementary, our newest building, there's a couple of spots where we need to do some patching. So it's time, especially especially at the junior high, where that parking lot, that actually hasn't been replaced as long as I've been here. We've seal coated it once since I've been here, but not very often, but there's just some spots in it where we really need to tear it out. And I don't mean like tear it out, go like 6 feet down and put a new base in. I mean, just
Retop it.
take out a big square and just put a new seal. I mean, so we're not talking millions, probably a couple $100,000 worth of, maybe $300,000 worth of asphalt repairs.
Okay.
And I don't know if anybody's able to answer it, but when we've asked for lights before on the softball and baseball, we were told because of the district, the other fields, a lot of the other fields that we play don't have them, so we could, weren't we told that before, Billy, or did I?
Yeah, that wouldn't be utilized as much because none of the other teams have the lights to,
Brewers got
like we
lights,
do.
Sunrise got lights, Saints got lights.
Do they now? See, this was a while ago, so that's
It's
why
been a
I'm
while.
asking.
I know last year they played under the lights on JV and stuff.
We've kind of addressed that with 3 coaches, haven't we, in baseball? That way, we could play JV on a different day than we play varsity.
Well, the problem is, we don't make that schedule. The district makes the schedule, so, if they say, we're playing on these days, because we have lights, that's when we have to play. So, I don't know that that'll get fixed. We can go and propose it to them and say, hey, we'd like to play JV on Mondays and do this. And I can see a lot of them balking at it because they're gonna lose practice time if they're playing at their place. So, we can try to do it that way.
More trouble.
And,
So is the rule if everybody has lights, is that the rule?
I don't know what the district rules are, to be honest
I've
with
been
you.
told that, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And I think everybody else in our district has lights now.
I know the JV missed out on a lot of baseball here because of it.
Mhm.
Because of no lights.
Yeah.
We wanted lights forever. I'm not saying no lights. that was one of the things we kept being told. And so I'm like, are we gonna buy lights and still not be able to use them, was my question.
I can see them not being used very often as far as softball right now because we only have one team, and so most of the time, their game is done well before it gets dark, so I can see,
If we give the boys lights, we have to give the girls lights.
Very much.
But
So
I mean,
Wait a minute, you
at
said
that
pretty
point,
much,
if you
not
have,
absolutely.
if you have
It would
lots.
be wise to do so.
And softball doesn't take as long as baseball too. I
Well,
mean, it's just-
if you have lots on the softball field, we can host tournaments too. Bring some money in. You can't do that now with.
Well, it really, I mean, your concession stand's gonna make money, but it's gonna cost us to host it because of the umpires. They cost you so much, you'll lose money putting on a tournament.
See, and that was, I mean, when we were begging
the
for
next
lots,
one's like-
that was one thing, we were like, oh, but we can host tournaments.
Couple $100, I think, $300 or $400. Oh, no, it's just, I can get you a number, but I don't know off the top of my head. I think it's just a few $100. I don't think it's,
The fee for a tournament?
yeah,
Yeah, that's what we pay when we go to tournaments.
yeah, it's a few $100.
It's like 200-300, yeah.
Per team.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Or like, when you're
And,
going to a tournament, that's our cost.
And an official cost will eat that up in a hurry.
Right.
So remind me, if we leave things on and then we get the prices, we can still take them off before we.
You can take it off anytime before we start actually advertising to the public and saying, this is what we're gonna do.
It would be interesting to see how much those lots are. I know at one time it was just outrageous
It'd be about 300,000 per field.
per field.
We could get somebody.
And how much is it to do chance, do you think?
I, total wild guess it's $500,000. And that's just based on how much it costs to tear down the hospital in, Gardner, the old hospital. But it's been a few years since that happened, so that is a total wild guess. Because that was asbestos and tear it down, and they had that big basement as well, so I figured it'd be about the same now, but it would be, yeah, if they came back and they said it was gonna be $1 million to tear it down, I think we should probably rethink and maybe just do the abatement and seal it all up.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to get a price to know what we exactly want.
So what about where you go? The maintenance wood shop currently at Champs?
Yes,
What do we want to do there?
we just wanna build another one. We need storage. Yeah, I've said this several times, especially if we get rid of Champs. Even if we don't get rid of Champs, we've got to stop using that building for storage. As parts become untenable due to the asbestos, we get to less and less storage. We just have, other than the Champs building, we have virtually no storage in the district. Now, I know now that's one I probably won't want to have the architect do, because if you remember when the architect practiced it last time,
Yeah.
250,000, and we've since, we've priced other things. I can get the pad done for 15, like the basketball court at the junior high, that cost me $15,000, that pad did. And then we can get a kit.
Bolts kit.
For roughly the same, so $30,000, you can build a good sized storage facility. Now, that doesn't have any electricity in it, because we do electricity, then we gotta have a architect,
Well, see, we brought that up and we were told we had to have an architect.
well, you do have to have an architect if you have electricity and any of that stuff to it, so.
But you can add electricity later.
Yeah, add electricity later.
I'm not gonna say we would do that.
Of course not.
Yeah, but it might be possible.
It might be possible, but I'm not gonna say that's the plan. Getting a little better at working around the rules than.
So on the baseball concession stand, we still just where we were, I'll leave it at.
It's gonna be hard to renovate that unless we make it a single-story facility, just because of the ADA requirements.
Are we still at where we had discussed previously, maybe looking at if we can do it?
Right, if we could do it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Okay.
same thing with the press box.
Because I've talked to a few of them, besides and Rusty, and definitely on board with trying to figure out how we, get together and figure out how we can do that too, versus. but
It's just the amount of work that you do, like we completely tear it down and rebuild it, then we have to build it to ADA compliance. If we renovate it, and we
It'll
do
be
it
better
ours-
than it is now, if you renovate it.
If we renovate it, we don't have to.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Whatever we do is gonna be better than what we got.
I agree.
Here's the death trap.
I went up those steps and they are steep. That is interesting building. So, yeah,
Okay.
like I said, and same thing on the, because the booth up here in the stands is not the best thing either.
Have you ever been in it?
But we can do that one ourselves, because once again, if we completely tear it down and we hire somebody to do it, then they're gonna have to put in an elevator and, I mean, we just, building a new building just opens yourself up for a lot of rules.
So what's wrong with getting bids on all of this stuff? That way we can prioritize the list and then,
Yeah, we can do that.
I
We
like
just,
to bump through that.
we wanted to get your input to see if there was anything that you know, were absolutely opposed to, or if there was anything you wanted to add. And so,
Right.
I mean, we can get prices for,
I think if this is the list that you guys need, and this is what the district needs, then let's get prices on all of it, and then we can sit down and prioritize it and have a hard number in front of us.
Well, and that's, I mean, the whole reason we're bringing the list to you is because it's the bond that you guys have got to support. You guys are gonna have to go out there and sell it. You're the ones that are gonna have to make, to convince the people that we need the things on this list. So that's why it's gotta be your list.
Well, I would say give us a number of where you think we need to be on the bond, and then get bids on this, and we'll get everything in there that we can get for the money that we can get. That'd be the easiest way to do it.
What about on the elementary, that kitchen fascia, is that, I mean, are we still doing the doors and all that stuff, is that?
We already did all
that?
the doors. The
Okay.
only thing that we have is when you go into the kitchen, the fascia right above is held up by a piece of plywood right now.
Yeah, I know that is, but is there anything else in there?
Not really.
Okay, well, I haven't been in there since last year, but I mean, I know there used to be more.
I believe that's all of it. It's because we did the door fascia several years ago. When we had, like all the concrete got redone, on all the
And the
doorways.
metal, and all the metal on the doors and all that, that was rusted out.
So the windows over there are still, that's all part of the elementary.
The flat windows.
Yes.
Oh, so that's included on that?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, we were talking, yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, and I mean, you might as well add a line under the turf field for just redoing it without turf, but resodding and redoing the whole thing. 'Cause
Yeah.
I want to see the price on that, because you know me, I will not go for a turf.
So Richard, on that, I'm gonna ask you for some help. I know you sent us the numbers, but can you run some numbers where it's the total maintenance, take into account the track every 10 years or so, however often it is, what that looks like per year, out to 10 years, 20 years? I think the email said some of the smaller schools, they don't get as much traffic on the turf, get up to 12 or 13 years.
Yeah, that's,
So maybe like do it, 1 to 13 and a 13 to 20 or something. And that way we can break down the cost on what it's gonna cost for turf, because just kind of looking at the numbers, it looks like maybe in that first time putting turf in, we might be a little more expensive than what the maintenance cost is. But then down the road with the turf being half the price, it looks like to me that we would be money ahead then.
yes, that's my analysis.
I think it's after about 13, 14 years, you're gonna be making money.
Yeah, it's somewhere in the middle of that second thing that you become positive in.
But I think that would help the public to see
Yeah.
and go, oh, okay. Not
Because
just
you
patch
factor
my
in-
turf because it looks good.
You factor in the practice field watering and everything else, shut that off because you don't have to use it anymore.
And that's in
You can
that,
practice on the turf.
that's in that $35,000 water
Oh, okay.
figure, is the
Right.
field,
So
the
it's-
football field and the practice field.
So it would still be 13-year payout or whatever.
Yeah.
14-year payout.
So you would still have to water the practice field though, right?
I don't know why you would,
I mean, not using it, I'd turn the water off.
because you're gonna be practicing on the turf.
And then you cut back that maintenance of mowing it all the time because you're watering it.
I get you some salt water, you'll never know it again.
Then you have
see
your,
what I got.
then you have room for your storage building.
Yeah, actually, that is a good location for it. But yeah, I have some numbers. The one thing that I haven't factored into that is labor, because at the time when I ran the numbers, I didn't know the difference in labor. But now that I've got that figure, I can get you a detailed analysis of that,
Appreciate that.
because I've done that a couple times now, but it's, I really do, the numbers work out that in the second time you are profitable.
Where are you
So-
gonna come up with that half a million the second time?
Well, but if you're,
You're making up maintenance costs.
you are,
Half a million?
we actually make up the entire cost.
If you're looking at maintenance and everything else over 10 to 13 years.
What about the heat? Because you can't put on it when it's super hot, because it's 10 to 20 degrees more.
It depends on the infill that you use. I would recommend that we use an infill that isn't. Like, if you use the little black rubber pellets, then you're correct, it is that much higher. But I would recommend that we use an infill. It's actually a type of nut shell that they ground down into little balls, and that's the infill that they use. And it's actually 30 degrees cooler than the other infill, so it gets you back to normal. And the vast majority of the time that we're on the field, it's not 100 degrees. Now, this time in August, it's probably the one time when we're on the field when it's really high temperatures, but in November, it's not, heat's not a problem. So that's why when I gave the price, the estimated price, I said up to 1.2. Well, 1.2 is getting the heat, the thermal control infill, so that you get a field that is not just because the little black rubber, they're just ground tires, and they just absorb heat. You're correct. Now, when we did the elementary playground, we did take some turf and just put it out inside in 100-degree weather and left it out there for several hours and felt it. And it doesn't get as hot as some of some of the older turfs when they very first started doing it. Some of them, you would burn your hand on them. It doesn't get that hot anymore. They've learned how to do turf a lot, but it is hotter. It definitely is hotter, but with the infill, you can
What's just out of curiosity, what was the price difference in between one and the other?
Well, 800,000 is the absolute base with this, the simplest infill possible, the ground, and then up to 1.2 for the thermal controlled infill.
And they were both guaranteed for 10 years?
Guaranteed for 10 years, average 13.
11 if you bought the equipment, right? Was that right?
No, equipment comes with it.
Okay. I know some of them will go another year of, if you let them take care of it, no telling what that costs.
Yeah, no,
I doubt that's probably even worth it.
No, in this deal, they train us on how to take care of it, and then we take care of it. So they don't actually even offer we take care of it.
So like if we ripped it or something within that 10 years or something happened, would
Well,
it?
then we would hire them to come fix it. We certainly wouldn't be out there. We've fused some turf together on ourselves. We don't ever want to do that.
No, but I mean, it's not covered, it's not like it's covered under a warranty of if we.
Yeah, if we drive a tractor out on it like they did
Yeah.
in, was it Stinnett?
Yes.
And tear it up, yeah, that's on our dime.
You don't move the snow. But if something happens, whatever reason, it didn't get put together just perfectly and it rips or whatever, though, it's covered under them, right?
Correct.
Okay.
For the warranty period, yeah.
Right. Is it covered, is it insurable? Like say somebody comes out here and cuts a donut off.
Well, I mean, I think our normal property insurance would cover vandalism, yeah. Just our TASB insurance would cover vandalism.
It's happened.
That's what I found on both games down there.
Wow.
Wouldn't it?
Oh, you go through. Oh, God.
Yeah.
That was before my time.
And I know turf is just, you're not happy about turf, and I have never pushed turf before.
I
But
still want to know how many
Yeah.
kids play, how many times we're going to be on it for 1.2, when we've got other things that we're doing. I don't see the money. I just don't
After
see
13,
That's
the
what I
thing
was
about it
asking.
is, after 13 years, you're making money off of not watering in the maintenance.
And you gotta buy it again.
That's what I was asking.
13 years is
I
more
don't
than
believe it. I just don't believe it.
To run out all the maintenance, painting, all the stuff, versus what it costs turf for the first time per month, or per year, and then do it projected out after we replace it again. Because down the road, we're just gonna be $50,000 a year ahead on maintenance cost? Like, we can't just look at it right now, we've gotta have a 20-year plan down the road too.
And
But
what
it's
I
not
was,
that simple, those numbers.
and what I was gonna say is, it's the track that has made me really take a second look at this, and why I'm asking y'all to take a second look at it, is because we replaced the track completely, taking it down to the dirt. This will be the second time since I've been doing this. And that's,
How many years is that?
I've been doing this 11 in this position.
And how much is the track taking it completely down?
And it's gonna be $530,000.
So, is there an extra $50,000 a year?
Last time was 385, and the time before that, we retopped it. It's
Yeah.
200.
Yeah, so,
And you're still gonna have to retop it.
yeah, so you're only gonna, it's
So, I mean-
300,000 extra, probably not the full 500,000 extra. Because it's 200,000 to retop it if it was structurally sound.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
So then it's still another.
And that's not to say that it'll never settle in a different spot or whatever.
It depends on how much snow and rain we get.
Right. I mean, and
Well-
I get both sides of it. I mean, I was a grass guy too.
What do they guarantee those tracks at? 5 years is the warranty on it?
I would have to look again at the proposal. I can't remember. I think it's 7 years.
Is it?
Yeah, I think it
And
is.
this
7
one's-
or 8 years.
This one's, what, 10 years old?
It was 11 years ago that we
We redid it.
redid it.
And you're supposed to do it about every 10, right?
Yeah, you're supposed to
Retop
retop it about every 10.
I just want to see the hard numbers in order to see how many years it's going to take if it ever does even out. But the numbers you sent out the other day pays for the initial and the 500,000 after 14 years. But if there's something changed, just give us the hard numbers so we can look at that.
Yep, I can do that. A couple other things I did want to point out to you is I would like to include on the list reimbursing. We've done this in the past. We do what's called a reimbursing resolution. And so the track expense, the $530,000, if we do a reimbursing resolution before we actually expend it, and then we pass the bond, that $530,000 can be refunded to the district out of the bond. And if we can fit it in, I think that would be wise to replace the money that we're gonna spend. Both that and then the money for roof repairs. If we did a reimbursing resolution, you're talking $780,000.
Drawing interest.
Well, it doesn't, it'll go back into the coffers.
Right.
So it'll go back into
So
that.
we'll take 1.2 back in, right?
Yes.
That would start drawing interest.
Yes, it would draw interest. And as I think you've said it once before, we built that money up over a long time, and we've worked really hard in the past 10 years to keep it up and actually build a little bit more. But it's, right now, unless funding changes, it's not gonna grow, and so anytime we can, if we spend some, if we can find a way to replace it, we're better off to do that, in my opinion.
I agree.
I think we'd be dumb not to do that. Because that's what we did with the roof initially. So that was the deductible, was the 7, or was that?
530 is the track, 250 is the roof repairs. Yeah, that'd be the deductible, yeah. I don't know how much the roof repairs are gonna cost, because initially the roofers told me, okay, there's just damage on the high school roof, but then they sent me their actual report, and they have damage on every single roof.
Is it the same one that did the elementary?
Yeah, it's those roofers, yeah. That roof held up fine
Yeah.
to the hail. The TPO we put on it is fine, it's just every other roof that's got significant damage, including the concession stand. Now, it's all cosmetic on the concession stand, but our policy doesn't have a cosmetic disclaimer, exception on it, so I don't know.
When are we looking at doing the bond? If we're gonna do it?
It would be May of this upcoming May would be, You either have to do it this upcoming May, or you've got to do it if,
November.
say, if they said for some reason we had to do it in November, you do not want to do it this next
Nope,
November.
you don't want to do it.
So you would do it the following November. There used to be a rule, they passed a rule several times ago that you had to do the bonds in November, but there was a ton of bonds in May, so we're assuming that rule must have gone away. So we're saying we're gonna do it in May, and I'll contact our bond council now that we've reached this point and say, yeah, we want to do it in May.
Yeah, because November, I mean, outside of the circumstances, it's way too close.
Next November's gonna be bad.
Yeah, there's gonna be 1 million people voting. You'll have the highest, I bet it has the highest turnout in the history of Hutchinson County.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one would be bad, and this one's it's too soon, just like the last time we tried to get the bond passed. It wasn't fast enough. We didn't have time to get word out to them.
Well, that's why we started several months ago,
Right?
so.
Yeah, I think we get some hard numbers and we can
So-
look through it and see.
If we're good for this list right now, our next step, like he said, is for me to contact architect, if we're good with the architect that did the 2014 bond, and he did really good work. So he's also the one that helped us with the emergency repairs at the elementary, so we'll contact him and have a meeting with him, try and get him to start doing an estimate on all of this. So that's the next step, and then we'll bring numbers back to you, and then we can finalize the list, and then after we finalize the list, then we just start working on it.
How much are you looking at trying to get?
If we do the turf, I think you probably are gonna do a $6 million bond. Yeah, if we look at, if we look at the numbers that I gave last meeting that I handed out to you all, and, that's sorry, I'll get you a
No, he's
copy.
got it.
I got a
Okay.
copy, I didn't.
The INS rate at a $6 million bond is 0.4495. That still leaves 5 cents out there for future emergency. I mean, so we're going up 17 cents, so you're leaving like $1.5 million, $1.8 million out there for future if an emergency happened. Because one thing we don't want to do is we don't want to spend every penny that's possible. But if you do a $6 million bond, you still leave yourself some room for future bonds. But I honestly think you can do every single item on this list for $6 million.
And some.
I don't know if and some, well, we did toss around the idea, and our Activity One bus is about as old as I am. And if we could, after we get all the numbers back and there's still a little room left over, we might ask you to add that to the list as well to replace Activity One. It's the old yellow activity bus that's, I mean, I'm sure it was here when some of you were in school. So,
Don't want to travel anywhere on it.
we still send it out, it still drives.
Yeah.
People don't like to go out in it though.
It's warm, huh?
But sometimes you gotta do, and our route buses, the last ones we got, so we have them configured so they're dual purpose. So they have the compartments and stuff beneath them, but you can't take that during the day because we gotta run routes. But, so we do have some other activity, for nighttime use, but, if we gotta send out a lot of buses during the day, Activity One's gotta go.
Yeah.
It's just,
It's supposed to
a
be,
little
the
ancient.
company,
I think once we get
the
numbers.
manufacturer's supposed to reckon a couple of better purchase it from an
Yeah.
Will you give us that number too?
On the activity bus?
Yeah, I think it's like one, or they one, or they go up to
Oh, it's gonna be above
230 or something like that.
It's probably gonna be about 230, yeah. They used, last one we bought was 137, and that just tells you how much they bought.
Yeah, that's why I said one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's discuss possible action on amending the compensation plan.
Okay, on this, currently, our summer UL strength and conditioning program, we were paying the coaches $20 an hour. It's 4 hours a day for 4 days a week. And there used to be, you could only do it for this certain time, blah, 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 this and that. And so, anyway, what we'd like to do, because, we had every coach up there this summer, and it cost us some money. And so we talked to Coach Wiggins, And it was actually his suggestion to do a $1,000 stipend for the summer strength and conditioning. And then he'll make the coaches work, 3 weeks or whatever they can choose, or they can, work the whole time if they want to. But it'd give them a chance to get some time off, and they're still getting paid, and it's roughly about the same. I mean,
It's less.
yeah, but, oh, yeah, last is,
Because
it's
we spent
summer
like
part.
35,000.
But, if they work the same amount of time, it's, so we would like to do a stipend rather than paying $20 an hour, and so that's what this is.
Will they do it for that if they've already been?
I think so. I mean, and this is what, I talked to a couple other superintendents and asked what they did, and they pay a stipend. And so, some of them do the hourly like we do, but, it's, and we don't have to change it, but, we just thought, this would save us some money. They're still getting paid.
How many coaches do we have?
Well, more than that, like 12, I think now.
Yeah.
Put some of that money towards turf.
Drainage system.
I get it.
We got a drainage system, we'll grab that.
That's right. Anybody have any questions?
Was this did we need to have the conversation about the Christmas stipend I talked about? Because Stacey wasn't here for that either.
I would wait to have that conversation until we get to the budget.
I know you said when, but I didn't know if it was on this or not.
Well, and we can have that conversation now, because you asked me, do I think we can afford it, and my answer is no. We have over $1 million deficit budget I'm proposing tonight. I don't think it would be wise at this
So let's
time.
talk about turf.
Let's go back to this.
Yeah.
Let's make a motion to amend the compensation plan. Anybody?
I move to approve the amendment to the compensation plan.
Stacy,
Second.
second by Doug. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right, Mr. Hine.
So now on to the proposed budget and tax rate discussion. Let me get my stuff here. Okay, I gave you my proposed tax rate and budget. Now, that million whatever in the hole, that number sounds horrible, but 780,000 of it is track and roof. So it's not nearly as in the hole as it initially looks like. It is still rough, and I still have been, I don't know if complaining is the right word, but whining may be the right word to Jason about this. Is one of the few times that once you take all my projects out, we're still in the hole. And this is probably one of the first times that's ever happened since I've been doing this. We'll talk about tax rate first. So the state, they just recently did that tax reduction, and so that is going to significantly reduce our tax rate. Now, our taxable values, because they did that $100,000 homestead exemption, so our taxable values fell to 135. They would have been up to around like 180,000. Because there was a huge increase. Now, on the plus side, I think we probably won't be assigned state values this time. I think he finally increased enough to match what the state said we should be doing. Unless the state just goes up crazy, and they could, who knows. But anyway, so our values fell to about 135 million. That's a decrease of 15.6% on the previous year. Now, fortunately, the decrease gets made up in the funding formula. So you can see that 94% of our tax base is in Hutchinson County. So the vast majority of our tax base is Hutchinson County. So what I'm projecting is that we're going to have a 78.44 M&O tax rate. We're going to leave the INS rate the same at 0.27, which is going to give us a total tax rate of 1.544. That's a 14% reduction from the previous year. So people will see like somebody, oh no, I was looking at my taxes. It's gonna be about $500 on my taxes. That'll go down. Which is one of the reasons doing a bond is really good timing, because we're gonna take their taxes way down and then we're gonna try to raise back some of it. But this is a significant decrease. So on the tax side, and this tax rate is really just given to us. The INS rate we adjust to pay for our bond payments as needed, but the M&O rate, unless we do a TRE election, it's really pretty much set in stone. Now, we did do a TRE election several years ago. That's why we're actually up to 0.78. If not, we would actually be at 0.68, I believe, is what our tax rate would have been, the maximum tax rate we could have done. So by doing that TRE right before they started doing the lowering of taxes, those pennies go directly into our Tier 2 money, and it really benefits us. So that was very good timing when we did that. So I'm estimating our revenue to be slightly up to $8,360,602. Most of 85% of that is state revenue. 14% of it's local revenue, and then the federal revenue is just a very small portion of what we do. Now, just me whining again, I probably spend 40% of my time on federal reporting for 1% of our funding. It's crazy. If you look at the various levels, this is where we're spending the vast majority of our money. Just like most years, instruction is absolutely the highest because that's almost all salaries. Plant maintenance is going to be the next highest because we spend, that's in utilities, salaries for plant maintenance, and then for this particular one, that's where the repairs like the track and the roof are budgeted, so that's why it's so much higher. If you look down by object code, this year our payroll would only be, in this proposed budget, would only be 70%. Now the reason that is because we have close to $1 million of repairs in there that we don't normally have. So normally that would be around 84% of our budget is payroll. Now, we did have a lot of increases of expenditures, and in their infinite wisdom, the legislature did not increase our revenue almost at all. The only reason we got a revenue increase was because of those pennies that we passed in that TRE, those golden pennies, are the only things we got additional funding on. So our ability to purchase has gone significantly down. The cost of sending kids on athletic trips, I mean, we still got to pay for their meals, and those meals are way more expensive. Another area where costs went up substantially is our contracts with Region 16. Quite a few of them doubled in price this last year. So a lot of our expenses went up a ton, but our revenue stayed almost neutral. And so even if we hadn't had that $1 million in there, we still wouldn't be at 84%. We'd probably be down to about 80%, just because of the amount of expenses that we've had that's gone up. So in this budget, some of the notable expenditures that are in it, I put $530,000 for track repairs, $250,000 for roof repairs, $90,000 for that special ed bus, which they finally tell me they've given me a delivery date of October 12th. So, or no, that's the date that it'll come out of the factory, and then they have to deliver it. So, who knows if they actually get it to us. And then we put $30,000 in there for a 15-passenger van. I don't think we'll be able to buy one because they just aren't making them for the private industry right now. I mean, for the public. Right now, they're just making them for private, and so they won't sell me one. I try to buy one all year long and see if I can get one to do it instead of the bus, and you just cannot buy one. So I put it in there, but I don't think we'll end up getting to spend it. So if we look at the actual numbers in the 199, like I said, it is, let me find the page that is the exact deficit. I should have written that number down for myself. So we're looking at $1,052,596 deficit budget this year.
What pages are you on?
That's the first page of the second report. it shows revenue plus appropriations, and then the,
It's on 13.
Can you remind me what the fund balance is?
Well, if you scroll,
I don't have an exact number, but it's around
Mine
4
shows me
million
like-
right now.
13.
To be fair, I know we're running a deficit, but if one bad thing happened to this district in the last 4 years, it's been another. We've covered pretty well. The track, the roof, the $200,000-300,000 that we had to pay the state, which just blows my mind, absolutely still to this day. I mean, it's just been one bad blow after the other. I think you've done great, so.
Yeah, it's great, and I'm so glad that we added it from where it was a couple of years ago, and we really controlled it. So it's awesome.
That is
I
very true.
cannot complain about that at all.
I know it's hard to give that report, but
Good.
I know what kind of guy you are. Don't take it to heart.
So, in looking at the individual, like if you go a couple more pages beyond where I was, you can see the differences in the budget from the previous year to this year. Most of them are just, it's just the cost of increase. There's a couple that are big. Like if you look in 31 guidance counseling, you see that it went up 110,000. Well, the reason it went up 110,000 is because I paid the salaries out of the ESSER funds. So we didn't actually spend any money on guidance counseling this last year out of the local budget. It was all out of the state budget. So the 31,000 in co-curricular, I added 30,000 basically to the budget for meals. We were spending so much more on meals now, and that's just not something that we can control. Plant maintenance is up so much just because of the track. It's actually down quite a bit if you didn't have the track in there. Because I didn't do, like last year when I presented this budget to you, I had a list of, these are all the projects we're going to work on. I told them we're not doing any projects this next year. All we're doing is the track and what safety things the state makes us do. And so we still have some safety projects that we're still working on, but we're not going to do any unless, repairs have to happen. But we don't have any planned projects in this next year. There is in data processing a pretty significant jump. I don't know why payroll is that. I need to look at. Oh, because once again I paid for their salaries out of ESSER funds, so that's why payroll jumps up so much. There is a lot in services. I've got to replace Office. The Office 2019 that we're using reaches end of life in October. And so I need to buy a new version. We don't buy the perpetual version because we save money by every few years just buying the standalone version that you can get. And so it does cost a big chunk of change in 1 year, but then we use it for as many years as we possibly can. So when Microsoft is end of lifing the products a little quicker, we may have to reevaluate that by the next time. That's really some of the big differences. Is there any question on the general operating budget? Okay, then on the debt budget, it's pretty much just, pretty much the same. We bring in pretty close to what we pay out, and that's what we plan to do. So it's because that's just our bond payment. Then when we move over to 240, the child nutrition budget, the lunch and breakfast. I'm going to say the same thing I say every year. This budget is just a placeholder because we have no idea how many kids eat, how many kids don't eat. I will tell you we're going to be significantly in the hole this year, like 57,000 in the hole. I suspect because of food costs, we're probably going to be significantly in the hole next year. We're probably going to be 80,000 in the hole next year for food. I've asked our our manager to, if she has a choice, to go with the economical choice this next year. And this last year, we didn't say that. We said, okay, we've got all this grant money, go ahead and spend it. This next year, I've said, hey, we need to try to keep an eye on costs. We still want to serve a good product because we want kids to eat. But we want to try to do it as economically as we can. So we'll attempt to control spending as much as we can. The food prices are just horrible. Now, at least eggs came down this year. Last year we were paying a bunch for eggs. So there's at least one bright spot where food prices have come down, but most everywhere else they're still up. So I anticipate a significant deficit in the food budget by the end of the year. So I'll probably come back at the end of the year with a budget amendment there, but I'm hopeful. There's just no way for me to know on child nutrition, because you just, some years a bunch of kids eat, and then some years they just stop. And so the child nutrition budget is a pure guess. The rest of them I'm pretty solid on. Child nutrition, a guess. So, any questions on the budget?
Do you have any idea how many kids yet?
We budgeted for 615. We ended at 622. We were really stable last year. We didn't drop a bunch from beginning to end. And I don't have the answer. I can't remember who asked about, was it normal to drop off? I don't have an answer to that yet. I've asked, but I haven't got a response. But we were pretty stable last year, so we felt doing 615 was an appropriate number. We'll just have to see. We'll have a better idea between now and when we actually approve the budget on the 28th, because we'll have a couple weeks of school, so we'll get to see, like, last numbers I looked at, the number enrolled, they didn't include like pre-K, or no, pre-K, yeah, pre-K. So I don't really know exactly how many kids we have, but we felt 615 was a good number to go with for our refined ADA. Now that's not enrollment, enrollment obviously is larger than that. Any other questions?
I think I was the one that asked that question.
Okay, yeah.
I was just curious, I think.
Yeah, I sent an email, but I just haven't got a reply back yet, because I'm curious too.
Okay. Any other questions for Ricky? All right, Jason.
Okay, I just have a few dates for you. This Friday at the pool and Borger, we're having our staff get together, family get together from 4 to 7. So if y'all can make it.
Is anybody going to be able to make it? You'll be there?
Should be.
No, Mike, you?
Yeah.
I'll be there. I don't know if I'll be right there at 4, but.
Yeah,
Okay, I'll be there as close as possible. Yeah, 4:30.
great. And then August 9th, next Wednesday, we have that legislative update. Again, we can do it Zoom up here if y'all would like. It'll save us a trip to Amarillo, or we can go to Amarillo. It's up to y'all. So if you let me know,
Zoom?
Okay.
I'm good with Zoom.
Okay, all right.
Is it at 7 or 6?
It's at 6 to 8.
6 days.
And I'll have some type of food for you, so
Some pop.
I'll have food for you on that deal, so. And then Meet the Eagles is
That's next Wednesday.
yes, next Wednesday, yes, sir. Meet the Eagles is August 14th at 6. And then, I don't know if I've never invited you, but if y'all would like to come to the welcome back breakfast, where all the teachers and staff come back on August 8th at 8 o'clock in the high school auditorium, y'all are welcome to join us there. I probably should have invited you in the past, but, I thought of it, well, if they could come, that'd be great. And so y'all are welcome to come to that. And then the meet and greet with the new staff. I don't know, we've done it at different times. We've done it before our first home football game. We've done it before a board meeting before. I didn't know if you know, maybe, and I don't know how many of them, do you know how many are gonna go to the swim party that have,
Well, with family and everybody's around 55 right now.
well, I mean, new staff.
Oh, new staff, I've only got confirmation for 2 new staff.
So I don't know that, you know, you'd be able to meet them there, so I wanted to get some input on when y'all wanted to do that. Meet and greet with the new staff.
I talked to Jason about doing it the first football game. Just have them come in here, and that way if they want to go to the game or go home, most of them from either here or Border, we talked about. So if we did it then, we could just meet an hour early, meet and greet, have some snacks, and then go to the game.
When is the first football?
It's 3 weeks.
It's August 25th, I believe. It's that, let's see, August 25th. Actually, the first 2 games are at home, so, or we hope. Anyway. That's another discussion.
So Billy had said something about, the board used to cook for him and stuff. But then we talked about how it's blazing hot.
Logan said he was all about it.
I
We
said
could
bring
sit
in a food
inside.
truck is what I said.
So we could just have a little snack and then go to the game if you don't want to do that.
It doesn't matter to me, either way, before the meeting, you're doing that.
Whatever's easier for you.
Well, the next board meeting would be next month. In
We got one next
September.
week.
Well, we'll have the one at the end of August, but I don't know if we want to do it.
I would want to do it then.
Yeah.
Y'all want to try to do it on the 25th?
At 6?
Yes.
We sent out a reminder, Ricky.
Yes, sir.
What's the earliest everybody can do it? 6? 4:30. But 6 would be fine, yeah.
I'll be fine.
It'd be about 45 minutes. The game will start at 7, right?
It's on a Friday, so like, they get out of school at, what?
4.
4. So if they had to wait till 6 or something. So that's what we missed out last year.
Yeah.
A lot of them just went home. But, maybe they'll go to the game. So it doesn't matter. That was just a,
What time we go to school? 15, 4:30, is it?
I mean, I'll be here, but
I can be.
it's up to y'all. I mean,
I could be here by
about 4 or so.
4:30 or 5.
What time's the game
Somebody
start?
else knows.
It's at 7.
I don't care. That was just some of the comments when some of them didn't come because
Doesn't
they had
matter
to
to me.
kind of hang around till 6.
I can be here then.
I'll do 4:30.
4:30.
Y'all want to do 4:30?
I think 4:30 or 5, that might give them a little bit better, if they could work in the room maybe 30 minutes sometime. But if they're all from here or Border, it might be me. Last year that we had quite a few that were driving. I don't know, that was just something they said.
If you're not here, but then I'll tell them.
Well, thank you, Ted.
That's all I have.
Thought about something else on the bond. If we're gonna redo the field one way or another, sod or turf or whatever, we can look at replacing goalposts too.
Yeah, that would be part of the process regardless. We were gonna try to paint them this summer, but even if we paint them, they're still really old. We need to replace them.
Right.
Okay.
Another thing, if we're doing the field, so we don't have a lot on flagpole currently, but I know the flag gets left up sometimes. It's not supposed to happen overnight, if it doesn't have a lot.
Which one? The one in front? Oh, this
At the field.
one? Yeah.
That's right there, right?
We'll get it.
Okay.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay, you got anything else?
No, sir, that's
All
it.
right, so the next board meeting, when do we want to do it?
28.
The 28th, right?
I think that's what we talked about.
At 6.
August?
Yes.
So the new staff, I mean, meeting the new staff is at 5 or
4:30.
at 4:30?
This one, next Wednesday, 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir. It starts at 6, so
25th. 25th,
25th.
40-30 minute hour crowd. Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Monday the 20th.
Do y'all need any help on, what is it, Friday the 4th?
I don't think so, no.
I mean,
'Cause
it's
we're
pretty
gonna get pizza and we've got drinks and
Yeah, I think me and Kim are gonna go on Thursday, just make sure tables are set up. I mean, really, it's all set up, so that's.
Yeah.
And Rose did donate all that to us.
Did you get us a cutlery board or whatever?
Not for mine.
You want some hors d'oeuvres? I'll get you some hors d'oeuvres.
4:37. I'll be there at 4:30. No, that's great. All right. You might have a few times this last year, actually.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hunt, will you call us into executive session at 8 o'clock for the deployment or specific occasion for implementation of security personnel, critical infrastructure, or security devices, Texas Governmental Code 551.076.
Yeah.
You wanna play some music for us, Tom?
Oh, hang tight, look at that. Tick tack, back up. That happened to me at work, me and Richard. That's why we gotta get Google, because it was when we were first learning the new system, right?
Yeah.
And it's new services, and the lady ahead that said, don't ask any questions, please try to just listen, and I'll answer anything, but we've got to get through this fast, please, no interruptions. So I mean, as soon as she said that, my computer starts going, you have a virus, you have.
I mean, it was loud too.
Oh, it was just like, and she just looked at, and I turned around to my tech professional guy, and he is crying, laughing, he's shaking, I'm just,
Yeah, it was no help.
yeah.
Was it in the neighborhood?
Yeah. Okay. All right, Mr. Hine, will you call us out of executive session at 8:30? Have no action.
We got that House Bill 3 resolution we need to,
Oh, I'm sorry.
yeah.
Have a recommendation?
Yeah, I recommend to approve the House Bill 3 resolution.
Okay, I have a recommendation by Jason. Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the House Bill 3 resolution.
I have a motion by Doug. Do I have a second? Second by Mike. All in favor? All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. I make a motion to adjourn at 8:31. Do I have a second? Second by Mike. All in favor?